Okay, nerds, I've got the results to your Voight-Kampf test right here, and I'm Dr. Jordan Breeding, aka Officer J, and I'm a little worried about your diet.
A banquet is in progress. The entree consists of boiled dog.
Gross. Anyway, you're participating in another episode of Your Brain on Crack, the show where a blood-black nothingness began to spin. A system of cells interlinked within cells interlinked within cells interlinked within one stem. And dreadfully distinct against the dark, a tall, white fountain played.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
Cells.
Interlinked.
Interlinked.
We're done.
Whew! Well, today I diagnose... Through 2 running Blade movies, we still don't definitively know if Rick Deckard is a human or a robot replicant. The debate has raged on for longer than I've been alive, and the most popular internet theory seems to be that Deckard's roguish good looks are in fact artificially built in a lab somewhere. And as proof, endless articles and videos point to small moments like Deckard's eyes flashing, or the Origami unicorn scene, or director Ridley Scott flat out revealing Deckard is a replicant like some sort of anti-Christopher Nolan hack. But Scott is not only wrong about his own character, he's retroactively making his film, and indeed the entire series, worse. But good news, androids are among my many actual doctor specializations, and I've decided to use my considerable knowledge to save Blade Runner for all of us. You're welcome, and I accept cash. When we first meet Deckard, he's divorced, his dad is dead, and he's retired from blade running because he found the Nexus 3 replicants to be too smooth, too human, and he didn't enjoy murdering creatures so alive and so velvety.
Is this testing whether I'm a replicant or a lesbian, Mr. Deckard?
Already we've got a huge problem. If Deckard is a replicant built solely to kill other replicants, why was he allowed to quit his job? At the beginning of Blade Runner, he's dragged out of retirement to hunt down Nexus 6s, meaning he's been retired for 3 generations of robots. But living on Earth as a replicant is illegal. Even if the government originally made an exception for Deckard, surely that would be rescinded as soon as he retired, right? The only reason they'd let him stay would be if he's single-handedly keeping their scotch and noodle industries afloat. But okay, so he unretires and becomes barely legal once again, and Deckard is sent to Tyrell Corporation to unknowingly test whether or not their hot new Nexus 7 replicant prototype Rachel could pass a Turing test. In this universe, that means passing a Voight-Kampf test, which measures a subject's empathy.
Someone gives you a calfskin wallet.
I wouldn't accept it. Also, I'd report the person who gave it to me to the police.
Whereas humans feel bad watching a turtle slowly cook to death in the desert, replicants really don't mind. Although to be fair, this could be just because robots aren't allowed to watch TMNT.
You look down and you see a tortoise, Leon. It's crawling towards you.
Tortoise? What's that?
You know what a turtle is?
But even in a crazy scenario like the movie Ex Machina, where the true test is whether Deckard would fall in love with what he knows is a robot, thereby prove its humanness, it still makes no freaking sense to assess the humanity of a robot with how human they seem to another robot.
Let me tell you about my mother.
Even in Ex Machina, they use a human tester. A robot proves essentially nothing, and either way, all the test really achieves is confusing Deckard and causing him to steal their only Nexus 7 prototype and violating it. Okay, maybe now I'm hoping Deckard is a robot, because it'd be pretty messed up for a human to do that. Fast forward 30 years, and Deckard is very clearly still alive and deliciously aged. Yum! Except even the most advanced replicants in 2019 only had 4-year lifespans. At the end of Blade Runner, Deckard tells us via voiceover that he thinks Rachel is special and she had an extended lifespan, but it's never proven because Rachel dies in childbirth only 2 years after Blade Runner, meaning either way, she was probably still within that original 4-year cycle.
Soil samples indicate that she's been buried for 30 years.
All right, let's get super nerdy on some robot shit.
Happy anniversary.
Given what we know about replicant generations, it would make sense to give Rachel an extended lifespan. Nexus 7s, like Rachel, were given implanted memories to solve how Nexus 6s never lived long enough to accumulate enough experiences and memories to form an identity and become emotionally stable. Thanks to her memories, Rachel possesses a sense of self right off the assembly line. The next generation after Rachel's, Nexus 8s like Drax, don't appear to have memory implants because they're given full lifetimes to develop memories and identities more or less naturally. Wallace, for his part, reintroduces implanted memories in Nexus 9s, like Officer K, specifically to make them more compliant.
I don't retire my own kind because we don't run.
There's no generation of Tyrell-era replicant Deckard could be that would logically make any sense. If he's a 7 or earlier, he couldn't live that long, and 8s weren't even out yet. And even if he was magically a 7 with a long lifespan, he'd be only the second ever created, which makes Rachel's Turing test even more freaking pointless. That's like doing a soda taste test, but everybody's drinking Mellow Yellow. Sure, it's fun, but are we really gaining anything besides type 2 diabetes?
I missed you, baby sweet.
Even super blind, super genius Wallace doesn't think Deckard is a replicant. After Wallace captures Deckard, he causes Deckard to doubt his humanity for fun, but ultimately Wallace tries to gain information by simple coercion. If Deckard is a replicant, Wallace would open him up and poke around until he discovered what was special about his little penis design that allowed him to procreate with Rachel. But if Deckard's the owner of a normal, boring human dong, there's nothing Deckard offers Wallace besides potentially the locations of Deckard's daughter or the replicant resistance. What Wallace needs is either the miracle replicant who gave birth or the miracle replicant who was born. Deckard's just the useless human idiot who banged a magical robot.
I had the lock. I found the key. Yet the pins do not align. The door remains locked.
But what about that danged origami unicorn? The gist of the scene is that Deckard dreams about unicorns, and the next day Gaff, another Blade Runner who's presumably human, leaves the little origami unicorn outside Deckard's door. The implication is Gaff must know about Deckard's dreams because Deckard is a replicant with implanted memories Gaff has access, just like how Officer K's memories aren't his own in 2049. And so it's not his fault if sometimes he daydreams about spreading Princess Buttercup over a bed of Maro-chan.
What happens if I finish that?
Except again, the only replicant ever given implanted memories by Tyrell are the Nexus 7s that never made it past the prototype stage. Even if Deckard does have implanted memories for some completely unexplained, plot-breaking reason, why would those memories be of a former Blade Runner who's divorced, who doesn't want to kill robots? That's the most unhelpful backstory since learning the shared names of Batman and Superman's moms.
I always knew you were special.
Deckard's origin story should be replicants murdered my wife, and I hate replicants, and I will now kill replicants. Quick, show me a replicant, so that I may kill it. Deckard's memories actually make him less stable and presumably worse at his job. Either Tyrell has no idea what constitutes a positive constructive backstory, or they somehow thought that moral conflict would make Deckard better at remorseless murder, which I have not found to be true in my career. Also, by the time of the origami unicorn, Deckard has already learned about implanted memories and explains to Rachel how her memories are false and adapted from Tyrell's niece. It's entirely plausible that when Deckard dreams about the unicorn, he's just dreaming about something he saw earlier that day. I mean, how did Gaff learn about the unicorn? Presumably, the two of them learned about these implanted memories at the same time when visiting Tyrell's headquarters. Neither of them had any prior reason to learn what is essentially a trade secret before that visit. Gaff could just be making a joke about that funny unicorn memory he and Deckard saw yesterday.
It's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?
And even if none of that convinces you, remember, the unicorn scene is only snuck into the director's cut by Scott well after the initial release. The scene isn't even in the original screenplay. If anything, that scene hints humans and robots are just more similar than we know, but again, it goes against a sensible plot to have Deckard explicitly confirmed as a replicant just because Scott decided sci-fi movies need a certain amount of twist to be taken seriously. Literally nobody agrees with Ridley Scott. I don't mean your pothead college roommate. I mean Harrison Ford played the character as human, the original screenwriters like Fancher claim Deckard's written as human, and how in the freaking book the whole thing is based on Deckard is explicitly human. Most of the people who worked on the film agree the story needs a human center, because here's the thing, the list of important human characters is super short. It's basically just Tyrell, Wallace, Gaff, and Princess Buttercup. That's it.
With you, I sometimes forget.
Everybody else, like Rachel, Kay, Anna, Joy, Love, Sapper, Mariette, Leon, Zora, Roy, and Pris are just artificial beings.
Like tears in rain.
If the most important human character is secretly a robot, Blade Runner devolves into some kind of crappy filler episode of Westworld where the twist every couple of scenes is, surprise, yet another character is actually a robot, and double surprise, they look pretty good naked. If Deckard isn't human, then how can the audience really assess questions about what defines humanity? That's like asking, what is being a professional football player all about? But it's in a movie exclusively starring Philadelphia Eagles fans beating each other to death with battery socks. And this is what makes the short story, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, so fascinating and comparatively clear. The issue isn't so much whether or not the Voight-Kampff test can detect a robot, but whether it's too good and might spit out false positives for actual humans with lower than normal amounts of empathy. Deckard is clearly human, but because of the test, he struggles with where the line is between robot and human, especially when it comes to people with mental or emotional issues.
We're so happy you found us.
This mirrors some of the best themes presented by the movies. Deckard appears to fall in love with Rachel, but can it be true love if she's not human? Does his love for her somehow make her human? Or is what Deckard does with her more akin to sleeping with a body pillow? 2049 attacks this question from an alternate angle. Kay and Joy love each other, but neither are human. Do they share anything real? Does their love provide some sort of heightened existence? These two relationships are natural extensions of each other, but if both Kay and Deckard's romances are just robots loving robots, then we're retreading the ground of the first movie. Everybody's still drinking Mellow Yellow. If there's no distinction between human and robot characters, or if the sneaky director wants us to keep guessing, then there's no comparisons to be made. But if Deckard is a human, struggling with his own identity amongst eerily human-like robots, the audience is given an opportunity to compare similarities and differences between Deckard and Rachel and Officer Kay and Joy and consider what makes for life. This is what Blade Runner explores. Is our ability to empathize with turtles and wasps, or experience love, or make babies enough? Or is there something even deeper that makes us truly human?
Many is the night I dream of cheese.
That's so much more compelling than 5 hours of, ooh, is he like a robot?
You better get it up.
Alright, so it looks like you passed the part about Mellow Yellow tasting like sugar spiked piss and the section on the best LGN diet for robots, and agreed that Ridley Scott's filmography is pretty hit or miss, so you can go. But be sure to see Kathy on your way out for your bonus. Let's go. Let me bring this home so I can put food in my mouth. Okay. All right. Let's get All right. Let's get oh my God.